Bonjour mes amis, hi guys. So the long-awaited burgundy version of the Grand Seiko Spring Drive GMT has finally arrived. You might know this watch from the black version, and I always thought it was a cool watch. See, if I hold it like this, it looks like the black version actually, with so many features. The one thing that I didn't like was that it is 44 millimeters at the top, because the watch flares out, as you can see here, and it could entirely be smaller, I think 2 or 4 millimeters smaller, and by doing so Grand Seiko would really compete straight on with Rolex. Instead here they prefer to have this case that flares out and this rather large bezel with also an inner ring. And so when I went to the shop a week ago, it was the first day of the release of this watch in Hong Kong. I went in by chance, and yes, so I was confronted with the dilemma. Am I buying this or not? It's not really a good time of the year for me to be spending too much money, and these retail around $5,000. I paid a bit less than that because I got a decent discount, and yeah, I have 17 centimeter wrists, so this is really at the limit of what I can wear, really, because this bezel is quite large. What does make the watch look a bit smaller is that beautiful burgundy dial, so it makes the watch look a bit more petite on the wrist. And really there's so many features, and it's a limited edition, only 600 pieces, and so that's what swayed me into purchasing the watch. The price was okay, and it has all the features that I like. GMT complication, it has the rotating bezel to calculate the third time zone, spring drive, look at the smooth sweep of the second hand is absolutely gorgeous. You have some gold elements here, the GMT name, and obviously the GMT arrow hand. It has a date, which is important for me. The date here replaces the 4 o'clock marker. It's a maxi date, so very easy to read. Black on white. They didn't go too fussy on this one. The crown is signed, it's beautiful, and it's at 4 o'clock. So no risk of hitting it. It just recesses it into the case. Not that you would have to use it quite often. So it's pretty good. It's easy to turn it out and to add some power. As you can see, I'm at full power because the rotor here is very efficient. It's slightly noisy at times. I've noticed it once, but usually you don't even notice it. But it's very efficient, so you're always really at full power if you wear it every 2 or even 3 days, because it's a 3-day power reserve. As you can see here, the power reserve has 3 segments, red, burgundy, and gray. 1 segment per day. And the advantage of spring drive, beyond the smooth hand, is that it's just indifferent to the power reserve. It's indifferent to the positioning. It doesn't, and this version here, which is designed to be used on boats actually, rather than planes, although it's the same, you can just take it traveling anywhere you want, has a better resistance to shocks from this version, and also to a temperature changes, so it's ideal to take on your nautical trips. As you can see here, you have one 24-hour scale on the rehaut using the odd numbers, and then on the bezel, which turn in both directions, you have the even numbers. So I really like this rehaut. It's the same color as the dial. Really cool. And when you look at it from the front, the numbers are always facing you, because they change direction there between 5 and 7, and equally on the Similarly on the other side between the 17 and 19. It's really a mesmerizing thing to look at. Obviously you have the sunburst effect on the dial. It's meant to replicate the polished mahogany decks of a yacht. So it's a very classy piece, a very cool piece. It's a sport piece. Comes also with a rubber strap, which is orange, quite unusual, and it's kind of cool. I feel like it's a bit sportier than the watch itself. I'm yet to try it. Obviously it's on the bracelet now. Everything is steel here. This is not a titanium piece. The bracelet is very comfortable. It's not as solid feeling as a Rolex Oyster bracelet. It's a different feel. It's more soft. It balances the weight of the watch okay. You can still feel that the head of the watch is fairly heavy. It's quite a big chunk of metal here. But yeah, the bracelet obviously is finished much better than what you're gonna find on a Rolex. You have those beautiful polished portions, and also on the side. The side of the case has that Zaratsu polishing technique, and you have one angle here, so it flares out and then goes back in. Beautiful beveled edges here, and nice brushing. You know, this is what you've come to expect from Grand Seiko, and for the price point, you know, it's half the price of the Rolex GMT, which is the competition here. What you get is quite incredible. So you really need to consider this as the option. You know, obviously in the price range you have a lot of things from Omega, Jaeger-LeCoultre, even Breitling, Panerai, for example. And from Rolex, you can either go for the almost vintage now 16570 Explorer 2. I have one, and I love that watch. I love to wear it every day. It's a bit more easier to wear than this one, because it's very compact, and it doesn't have a rotating bezel, so it's really more compact at 40 millimeters. And obviously the GMT Master 2, the black one would be another option, but it's going to cost you a lot more. So what else? Yeah, we were talking about the bracelet. The clasp is very simple, so it's a three-fold, and you have double pushers here. It is signed. The same type of clasp as you find on the Snowflake, for example, or the dressier pieces. So for a sport piece, you could have expected some sort of extension, or at least a little pin or anything, because yeah, if you take this on holiday and your wrist swells up, or if it's cold and the watch gets a bit loose, you can't really do anything. You know, you're kind of stuck. Otherwise, if you wear it every day in the city, well, there's enough half links. I had one removed here, I think, and two full links removed to get a good comfortable wear. But like right now, I'm losing a bit of weight. The weather is getting a bit colder, and the watch is already a bit looser than when I had it adjusted. So that is worth mentioning. You know, it's hard to beat Rolex in that field. You know, they make great clasps. But their clasps are very big. I quite like the simplicity of this. You know, it's really simple to put on. Nothing gets in the way here. I really don't mind. On the back, you have the Grand Seiko lion embossed. It's a limited edition. It's numbered. I don't mind showing you my serial. And all around, you also have this sort of rail track. It's quite deep, actually. And yeah, you can't see the movement here. That's too bad. I can see it in my Snowflake, so I know what it would look like, more or less, although it's not the GMT movement. But this is going to add water resistance. So this watch is resistant to 200 meters. So really, it's an all-around watch, perfect for any occasion. You know, it looks really cool when you wear it with the suit. and it's perfect to go on holiday. I mean, the problem here is that you have the polishing is amazing. So the first scratches you're going to put are really going to kill you, and you can't really fix it yourself because it's a great technique of polishing, you know. So you might have to send it back to for service. And speaking of which, servicing Grand Seiko, it has to go to Grand Seiko and probably back to Japan, and that's going to cost a lot every time. So you have to factor that in. I'm not sure what they recommend. It's probably every 3 years. I doubt they recommend 5 years. And the thing is, because you have 3 days of power reserve, if you like the watch, it's going to be running all the time. So yeah, if you don't have a rotation of your watches longer than that, we'll see how it goes with those spring drive movements. I should read on the forums a bit what people are saying, but I'm expecting a fairly pricey service. So I think I've said a bit everything I had to say. Let's take one more look on the dial at those beautiful indices. Really well polished. There are different facets to them. One of the highlights of the watch is obviously at night. The whole bezel is loomed. It's a very sharp loom, and really one of the most enjoyable things about the watch. On the dial itself, you just have loom on the 3 hands, nothing on the second hand, and you have a rectangle of loom within the quarter-hour markers. So fairly discreet. I think they didn't want to have a Christmas tree kind of look to the watch, and it's okay. You can still read the time normally, fine, because you have some reference, albeit on a 24-hour scale on the other edge, but you can still read the time fine. It's not an issue, and I think it looks cool enough. Now I've mentioned a few negatives or semi-negatives. One of the things you have noticed here is how much glare there is. So you have a double dome sapphire crystal on the dial, and it has AR coating on the underside, but still you see a lot of reflections. It's really hard to take a good picture of the watch, and it doesn't help that you have so much reflection on the bezel as well, because it's also covered with the sapphire crystal. And we've talked about the price already. It's not a cheap watch, but I think you're getting a lot of quality for what you pay, and it's a great alternative to Rolex and Omega, which do cost more money actually. But are you gonna get that money back if you try to sell it? This one maybe, because it's the limited edition. But you know, they come up with so many limited editions. You know, maybe another dial will come up with something more fancy. What I would really like to see from Grand Seiko is reduction of the sizes of their divers and of the GMT piece here. Don't get me wrong, this piece is absolutely gorgeous, and I think most people who buy it are gonna love it and won't want to sell it. But if the divers are huge, you know, 44, 45 millimeters, if they could take that down to 42 or even 40 millimeters, or this watch as well, if they could take it down. I'm not sure if the silver ring here is really needed, or this have to be so big. This would take Grand Seiko to the next level in terms of sports watches, because their dress watches that came out this year were all amazing. I've tried a few of them, the blue, the brown one, and they're really good. The dials are amazing. So I think in the sports range they can go to the next step to be the really contender versus the usual Rolex. And so that's about it. I'm really enjoying the watch. It's a beautiful watch. I'm still on the fence. You know, it took me a while to decide to purchase the watch. I'm still on the fence about the size. I'm used to my Rolex, which kind of goes like this, right? While this one has more of a flares out. which is quite unusual. I mean, the bezel does step down a little bit, but not so much. Let's talk about the bezel to finish this video. Two things are wrong about this bezel. First, the clicking action is fantastic. It's one of the best. It's just hard enough, and there's no play into it. It goes in both directions. It's just strong enough, and loose enough, so it's easy to turn, and it still feels very solid. Problem number one, it's 72 clicks. So there are 3 clicks between 1, 2, 3 between each hour. 1, 2, 3. See? So that means clicks of 20 minutes. What's the point of it? Make a click of 15 or at least 30 minutes. That's all you need. You know, I don't go to Nepal or India much, but still, for those who do go to those places, or those who want to, I do deal with India every day actually, for my work. You know, I might want to have the click at the half hour or the quarter. But you can always lock it in between. It's not going to move actually. If you put it in between 2 positions, 2 clicks, fine. It's not going to move at all. And one good thing about this feature is that although Grand Seiko has separated from Seiko, there's still a little bit of Seiko in them, in that bezel. Yes, it doesn't align with the hour markers. As you can see, at the click, the triangle is slightly to the left, and the next click is, as you can see, they haven't aligned the bezel, which is incredible. And I saw it as soon as the watch was unwrapped, but I had paid already. I had spent too much time I had to go home, so I had to make a quick decision. So I decided to address it later with the customer service. And I will insist that they try to fix it here in Hong Kong, not back in Japan. If they do send it back to Japan, I will refuse to pay anything, because, you know, it's Grand Seiko. It's a brand new model. It's a flagship. You know, they were very proud of presenting this one at Basel World. So, you know, you're expecting a lot more quality control. If I put it at the dot, you will see even more what I'm talking about. Here it's at the right. And boom, here it's too much to the left. The right click would be here in between. That would be the right position, somewhere like that. And so yeah, that's the click. So yeah, there's a bit of Seiko left in the Grand Seiko. Seiko either can't seem to align everything properly on their dials. It's crazy because everything else is so quality. It's just a fantastic watch. We haven't really talked about the hands themselves. I can't really get a closer shot of them, but it's just, everything is just polished and beveled to perfection. So there you go, leaving you on this funny, well, it's not really funny for me, but probably funny for you, funny note. And this beautiful spring drive GMT Grand Seiko watch, still available right now. And that's the funny thing, you know, only 600 pieces worldwide, but you go to a Grand Seiko shop and you can find a watch. But if you want to find a watch from Rolex, they tell you that it's not there, even though they probably have a few behind the counter. If you're not someone who spent X amount of money, they're not going to sell it to you. Grand Seiko, you want to buy the watch, they're going to sell it to you. And I've been able to find every limited edition this year. Eventually they sell, okay, so you shouldn't wait too long. But if you want to buy one, they'll sell it to you. And you know, if Rolex keeps on going this road, a lot of people are going to turn their back to them and embrace Grand Seiko, because this is a beautiful quality watch. All right, guys. I've been speaking a lot, 20 minutes already. I haven't even mentioned that to remove those links, you have to unscrew on both sides and remove a link. There's a little pin in it. It's quite a pain in the neck. But at least it's very, very solid and very fluid. All right, talking too much. Like the video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Bye bye.